What's up, Johnny?
Not much. I gotta be honest. I wish we would have done this before daylight savings time because the last couple of mornings been a little rough.
So how much pull do you have to convince Colorado to let you do a show from your wine cellar? I don't know how that works.
Well, you know what? I was going up and down the mountain. We live up in the mountains, and going up and down the mountain quite a bit when I first retired in 2017. And when COVID hit, they could only have two guys in studio. So we had Kyle Keefe and Mark Rycroft, and I'm sure you guys know both of those guys. They're unbelievable. They're so good at what they do. They're hilarious. And so they said, hey, we can only have two guys in studio. Do you want to broadcast from home? And I'm like, all right, sure, yeah. It saves me the hour and a half trip each way. And I was like, can I drink? They're like, yeah, why not? I mean, all bets are off at this point. So nobody knew what was going to happen. And so I was like, I'll just try and set something up. So originally I was doing it from my desk, and then I kicked it into like a closet, but I kind of set it up with a few things. And I was like, I'm just going to see if the wine room has good enough internet. And lo and behold, it did. And now people, like, I'll go down and do games at Ball Arena, and people will be like, why are you down here? Like, why are you not in the wine cave? And I'm like, well, sometimes I'd like to be at the games, but yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know if it's pull. I don't know if it's just kind of one of those things that happen, and now it's like they almost can't turn back on it at this point. But the studio's unbelievable. All the folks that work on the shows that allow me to do this and still be a part of it. From up here in the mountains, it's really cool, and it's kind of become its own thing, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It definitely has caught me off guard the last couple of weeks. I feel like I saw you and Hedgie doing a show from the casino, and then you and maybe Jan Stasny or something. And I'm like, where is he right now? It throws me off.
They did a wine cave on the road, and so I got Hayduk to come up, and it was in Blackhawk, which is kind of the gambling area outside of Denver, up in the mountains. And Monarch Casino did a wine cave from the road. So I got Hayduk, and then I got Darren Helm. And Hayduk was pretty easy, but Helmer, I had to pull some strings for him. He wasn't super eager to jump on camera, but I thought he was great. It took him a minute to just loosen up a little bit, and then now it was great because a guy like that, like, he's pretty soft spoken, but just the things that he talks about, even in that brief 30-second interaction, it's really cool for a guy that played a long time, had a lot of success, 2 Stanley Cups. It was fun.
Well, it's also with Hayduk, like, he never stops smiling. I mean, he's just the happiest guy in the world. I mean, that obviously hasn't changed. And then I see, like, for me, I'll be broadcasting a game, and like his kids are now on the ice,
which is crazy. When we were playing together, I used to call them the Hellions because they were like 3-year-old, 4-year-old twins, and they would just skate around and like two-hand everybody in the family skates, and now they're playing college hockey at heart. I can't even wrap my mind around this at this point.
It's honestly the same with Footy's kids. Like I went over to Footy's house a couple of times when Matt Duchene was living there. Like, we went and hung out at the pool over there in like the early training camp days, and like those little kids are running around like wild banshees. Like, and then one day I'm like between the benches in Chicago, and I don't remember if it was Cal or Nolan, like one of them standing there, and I like pulled them, and I was like, you probably don't remember this. I'm like, but it's funny to see you out here. It's just like crazy to see these guys like with kids of that age playing right now.
Well, and Footy's kids are like 6'4" and 6'5" too. So it like rubs it in even more that not only are they grown now, but they're like way taller than me. And it's crazy how things come full circle in that regard. And but it's super fun. Like, even talking to Hayduk about how much he enjoys going to Boston and watching the boys play kind of all over the East Coast, and just following them. I mean, Merrick played at the U.S. program, and so it's super cool just to see how much success these guys have had coming out of Colorado.
Johnny, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but our listeners now have gotten to know Colby for a little over 2 months. And
they all hate me.
Yeah, they all hate me. Some might like him. Others
they come on our show just to hate message the chat on YouTube.
But I wanted to ask you, since you've known Colby, since he was a young NHL rookie, I guess, do you have any young Colby Cohen stories that
let's not do this.
Maybe you can share?
Oh man. Well, I mean, I just go back. Was it game one? I think it might have been game one. Was it against Calgary? Was your first game?
Second
game. Okay, second game. And one of the coaching staff said, "Hey, like just when you're out there, just think like you're like Rob Blake. Just play like Rob Blake." And so we're playing Calgary, and he goes after Jerome McGinley at the end of the first, and everybody's like, "What are you doing? Leave him alone. Let him sleep.
Let him sleep.
Like, if you let him sleep, he's going to have 2 assists, and he's going to be pretty quiet. If you go after him, get him pissed off, he's going to have a hat trick, a fight, and probably 2 assists." It was one of those things. But Colby was like, "Nope, going after the toughest guy out here." And I mean, thankfully, I don't think you guys dropped the gloves, but you were shoving him after the end of the first, and I think he was staring at you. And I'm like, "Colby, what
He
are
dropped
you doing,
me.
man?" Yeah,
I have a great picture where he absolutely drops me, and you can only see like the back of my jersey from like the net cam, because obviously like I was down in the offensive zone, lost per usual. I'll never forget. Johnny comes up to me and he's like, "Colby, you don't stick your fingers in the bear cage at the zoo. Don't do that. You just don't do that." And they were right. Ginla went off that night. We ended up losing that game, and saved me some money because I had to put a heavy amount. They made me go pretty deep with the money on the board in those games. So
was it in Calgary or were you home?
No, it was at home in Colorado.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I think that's better though. If you were trying to get after a Ginla on the road, that'd be a whole different story,
Yeah.
Dude,
I
had so much. I've never had more adrenaline in my life than those first couple of games. Like you can go through a brick wall, and that's not my personality at all. But I was like, I don't give a shit. I'll do anything to stay. I don't care who it is. So I would have taken a beating. It wouldn't have mattered. We had Chris Stewart on our team.
Yeah,
pretty fucking tough.
He was really
pretty tough.
Cody McLeod. Yeah, we had some.
That's
had
right.
Some
David Kochi. Remember?
Yeah,
David
Kochi? We had some meat. Oh man, Colby loves to be hated though. That's his thing. So if they're hating on him in the chat, like he's that's his sweet spot.
You know what's funny, Johnny? So when we first started our show, I originally like messaged Colby on LinkedIn like 4 or 5 years ago to like reach out to him for advice when I was in college, like to get into media. And I posted the screenshot of like my message and him being like, "Dude, happy to help. Call me anytime." I thought it was like a nice story. Like I reached out 4 years ago. Now we're doing a show together. He texts me like 2 hours later. He's like, "Dude, like you're making me seem to be such this nice guy. Like you're ruining it for me. Like, what the fuck are you doing?" Yeah, what the fuck are you doing? You can't do this. You're ruining my cred. And I was like, I thought it'd be nice to like show that we had whatever. You know what I mean?
He pulled the Jew card and he was like, come on, we're both Jews. Help me out a little here. So I was like, all right, I'll help you. All
right, but I do want to go into some like current topics. Last night, Matt Rempe's elbow. We were kind of talking about it before we went live. I'm a Rangers fan, cover the team. I still don't know how some people look at that hit and say it wasn't dirty. What do you make of the hit? What did you think originally? And I guess, do you think it warrants a suspension?
It was funny. I wasn't watching the game. I was watching the Boston game with St. Louis with Torrey going back to Boston again. But I kept on Twitter, I kept looking up Rempe McDermott to see if they fought. And so, they had some fireworks early. So I'm sure Rempe had some adrenaline going from that because McDermott is, probably top 2 or 3 in the league, toughness wise. And so, he's trying to make an impact. He's playing 5 minutes a game. Like it's hard to play 5 minutes a game. And so when you're out there, it's like, you got to fight, you got to hit, maybe you score, but it's, you ask some of those guys, like 4th line guys that play 5 minutes, like it's hard. You're sitting for extended periods of time. And so, he's got adrenaline going from chirping with McDermott, and McDermott asked him to fight early, it looked like. And he's finishing his check. I don't think he's trying to fire an elbow into his jaw, but he definitely got him. And regardless of if it barely got him, when you're not expecting an elbow to the jaw like that, who knows how long he's out, but that's.
And people are saying
it's still like an elbow. It doesn't matter how hard it is or if he barely hits him. A high stick to the face that barely hits him is still a high stick, right? So, listen, he's trying to make an impact. I know McDermott wasn't super happy with him waving at the Devils bench on the way off the ice, but I don't know. That's my take on it.
Yeah. Well, look, I think it's great to see some hatred between the Devils and the Rangers. Like, I think that's great. I think it's a suspendable hit, Laz. But I will say this: like, I don't think that he is. I saw someone say that's intent to injure. Like, I agree with Jonny Liles here that like you don't get a lot of ice time. Your adrenaline's going. You're trying to make a play and leave your mark on the game. You know, it happens so fast. It's easy to slow a play down and look at it in slow-mo, and it looks like he extends and he reaches. Look, it's a bad hit. It was head contact only. He's probably getting suspended for at least 1 or 2 games. I didn't love the fact that he wouldn't fight McDermott. Like, that's kind of what you're there for when you play 5 minutes a game. Like, you have another heavy on the other team, like, do it. But I don't think, like, the Ranger fans who are saying that it wasn't a bad hit are insane.
Yeah.
And the Devil fans that are making it out to be mass murder are also kind of insane.
Yeah.
Like,
no one's elbowing anyone in the head on purpose in today's NHL. Like, everyone they know the rules, they know the consequences. Like, I also think it's Rempe still trying to figure out how to control his body. Like, the guy is massive.
6'7", right?
Yeah.
Like it's I mean, he's arms and legs, and he's kind of all over the place. I don't know if it's a suspendable hit, to be honest with you.
Really?
At this point, well, I'm just saying I don't know what a suspendable hit is anymore.
That's
and
fair.
So, right, and so
Yeah.
I like, maybe he gets suspended, maybe he doesn't. I don't have an opinion either way, just because the way they look at things, Department of Player Safety. I mean, they have their own kind of criteria. I haven't even I don't even try to dig in on it anymore. It's like, okay, that's the decision they made. So
wasn't that the issue though? Like, I was saying last night, like, they give Gallagher 5 games earlier this year for his elbow. If you want to have any sort of consistency, like, that's what it should be.
But he's also a major repeat offender, Laz.
Rempe's had 9 games. He doesn't have a chance to be a repeat offender yet.
Okay, yet.
So you set the tone early for him, you know? And this is coming from a Rempe lover.
I mean, I don't know if Department of Player Safety sets the tone like ever on that, right?
That's
like,
what I'm saying.
They're supposed to be as impartial as you can be. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I like, maybe he gets 1, maybe he gets 0. I could see it going either way. I don't know that I can sit there and be like, this has to be suspendable.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So let me ask you another question. And I know you were watching the Boston game last night, but there'll be more of a theme to it. Jonny Liles here is like, I'm noticing defensemen not doing a great job these days of protecting themselves. And like, you know, I see Luke Hughes taking a lot of big hits. I see Lindgren taking massive hits all the time. And I'm curious, like, you had the puck on your stick a ton, right? You used to get up and down the ice. Like, you were a thoroughbred the way that you played. Do you think that, like, there's this sort of lack of awareness in today's game with some of these young offensive defensemen that, like, kind of put themselves in harm's way a little bit without thinking, like, I need to protect myself a little bit? You know, I don't know. Like, are you seeing a trend like that, or are you going to stick up for those guys because you were such a stud at carrying the puck?
Well, listen, let's be honest. I got clocked a number of times my first few years, and even in my last few years. The game's gotten so fast. It continues to get fast, and let's be honest, the rink hasn't gotten any bigger. It's the same thing with football. It's the same, like, these fields, these rinks, whatever, like, they aren't growing, and athletes are only getting bigger, faster, stronger. So the hits are still going to be there, I think. I almost wonder sometimes, is it coaching? Where I watch Cale Makar, and yeah, like, he's on a different level, let's be honest, right? But very rarely does he get caught in a bad situation. And I don't know if that's if that's the coaching for the Avs, and they're like, listen, you don't get hit. It doesn't matter if you turn the puck over. It doesn't matter if you don't get the red line. We'll take the icing. We'll take you not getting hurt versus you getting hurt trying to put yourself in a tougher situation. I don't, like, to me, that, like, if I'm on the Devils coaching staff and I've got Luke Hughes back there, like, you take that icing, right? And I don't know if it's just, maybe you learn more and more, and by his 3rd and 4th year, because Cale Makar, being 4th, 5th year, it's like, yeah, maybe he's learned that, hey, I'm not going to put myself in these vulnerable positions. But yeah, it is. It does seem like one, guys are fast and they're strong, and when they connect hard. Even for Luke Hughes, who's a big boy. And two, I kind of wonder. It's like, is it something where certain coaching staffs are okay with these, not generational players, but Makar's a generational player. But when you look at like these top tier offensive defensemen, are they okay with those times where you're like, you know what, just get it off the glass, or don't put yourself, like, let the guy take the puck first if you have to. And to me, when you have guys like that, I mean, maybe it is something that you say, like, just don't put yourself in a bad position. But Luke Hughes has gotten hit quite a bit this year, some big hits. He took a couple in Colorado when the Devils were here, and it was
smoked in Colorado.
He got crushed.
That was that big one.
Yes.
Yeah.
He got crushed, and same thing. It was like almost like he wasn't expecting it. So not only is it, I think, coaching for, like, don't put yourself in a bad position, but like, hey, you gotta make sure that this is what guy they're gunning for you, right? Like, does Quinn Hughes ever really get hit very much? No, like he doesn't put himself in bad positions either. So it is. I kind of wonder if it comes down to a lot of it, not a lot of it, but part of it is coaching and how they're watching film, telling them to protect themselves, telling them to not put themselves in those bad situations.
I don't know, because I feel like, you see Adam Fox as well, right? You put him in that category, a guy who doesn't really get hit, but his D partner, Ryan Lindgren, gets lit up every night. So, like, I don't know.
He's not offensive either.
No, he's not offensive. I mean,
he takes more big hits than anybody.
Anybody
too, right? Yeah, like that's situational awareness. Like Adam Fox knows where all everybody else on the ice is. He knows where the hot dog vendor is. Like he's got that cerebral awareness, and you can see it. That's the way he plays the game, right? He's not overly fast by any means, but he knows everybody, and like, Colby, like when you're on the ice with a guy like Rempe, when he's on the ice, right? You have to.
Sure.
If you don't,
for sure,
that's when you take those big hits. And so maybe that's part of it, is you got to know when those guys that are going to put you into the third row are on the ice. And if you don't, then you end up taking bigger hits.
It's almost more worrisome when, like, Tom Wilson's out there, because he plays 18 minutes. Like, you're gonna be on the ice against him a lot. With Rempe, like, you might, Adam Fox might only see Rempe out on the ice one time all game.
They're on the same team.
Yeah.
I'm making know what I'm saying, though. Like, any offensive Hughes, but whatever. But so just curiously, like, going into the Avs a little more, you kind of mentioned the hits that Hughes did, just to pivot a little bit. You see this team every night. First off, I think the Avs broadcast has more fun than any other broadcast in the NHL. You guys, lock, stock, and barrel. The video of Moj drinking the spitter, or Riker drinking
the spitter, dude, that turns my stomach every time I watch it. And honestly, I don't know how Riker didn't grab him and choke him out right there. Like, takes the swallow, then holds it, spits it back out, and doesn't even break stride. It's amazing. And so many people have talked about that. It's been all over social media. It's so disgusting. But it's gross. I mean, it's like the embodiment of our broadcast of, like, haha, we got you, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's
urge.
We always say, if you don't have fun, like, if we aren't having fun, nobody's gonna have fun watching us. And that's literally how we do it. Oh God, you had to do it.
He has the video.
7:20 here right now.
We're showing the video of their color man, Mark Riker, drink their play-by-play guy Moj's spitter cup during a broadcast. I mean, this went viral. It was on Awful Announcing. But here's what I will say to people who are listening and watching the show. If you have ESPN Plus and you want to be entertained, watch an Avs broadcast. Like, these guys are hysterical during the game. Like, they are so entertaining. They do not take it serious. When they, obviously there are times in the game where they buckle down, but you will be entertained, right? These guys are entertaining. And then the team on the ice, they're pretty entertaining as well. And this is kind of what I want to ask you about, Johnny. You look at the moves that they made. Yeah. I love the Trennan move. Duhaime, Walker bolsters that sort of defense a little bit. I love all those moves. The question that I have for you the most of what they did at the trade deadline is middle stat for
Byram.
For Byram.
Yeah.
That was the one that caught me the most off guard, and I think everybody, maybe not you because you're there. What do you make of that trade? And like, were you surprised to see them move off of Byram? I know that they have a lot of good guys, but like, that kid's a stud. I mean,
he is a stud. He is a stud. And I've said this since they won the cup against Tampa Bay. Bo Byram was arguably the best player for the Avs in that series against Tampa Bay. He was 19 or 20 years old at the time, and he was flying, played unbelievable. They put him in every situation. I'm not going to say he's regressed since then. I think it's just he's kind of had a tough time like finding where he belongs in that decor. And so you had Sam Girard, who was out for quite a bit. Cale Makar eats up the lion's share of the power play minutes. So Bo Byram doesn't see power play time really. They were seeing the second power play unit is seeing 20, 15 seconds at the end of every power play. And that's really hard, especially when you're an offensive guy to you're just not getting the feel of the puck. And when you're an offensive guy and you don't have that feel of the puck, and like it's just hard to really generate. And I'm not going to say cookies or points or anything like that, but just that confidence because he's a two-way defenseman, and I would say he leans offensively. And when Cale Makar's in front of you, Devon Toews is in front of you. And so when Makar is out, Toews took over the top spot on the power play. And so for Bo Byram, it was almost like he had this ceiling because he wasn't going to break through those two guys. And you could almost see it weighing on him a little bit. And he was playing third pairing minutes, which nothing against him. It was just their defense. When you have Makar and Toews who play 25 plus every night, and then you have Girard came back and Manson. And so Bo was kind of slotting in. Bo was with Manson quite a bit. But to me, you have to give to get. And for the Avs, you had to give up Byram, young defenseman, a lot of potential, to get a second line center. They've missed a second line center since Nazem Kadri left. They haven't had one. That's been the big one for the Avs, is when they had that second line center, they were dominant because you throw McKinnon out and Jared Bednar is not afraid to go strength on strength. If it's the other team's top line and they're at home and they have last change, he'll throw McKinnon out because he knows that the McKinnon line is arguably going to dominate most shifts. And so in order to kind of offset that strength on strength, you need that second line that's really good. And they have the wingers when you look at Nichushkin and whoever you slot in there. If you slot in Parise, if you slot in Drouin, if you slot in Lehkonen on that second line with Nichushkin. Nichushkin was having the best season of his career before he left the team for a bit. Now he's back, scored the OT winner in game one back. And I just think they needed that second line center. And so, it comes down to what do you give up? And they were comfortable giving up Byram because I think they knew that they had that Johansson trade for Walker, where Walker is, I think he's a good two-way defenseman, maybe doesn't trend as much offensively as Byram, just in my mind.
Right.
And their back end is probably the best blue line in the NHL.
It's up there, right?
Them in Vegas,
there,
probably.
Right? Yeah, exactly. It's definitely up there. Vegas with the Hanifin trade. I mean, I played with Noah in Carolina his rookie year, and good kid, skates. Never gets tired. Like, just he's a freak. And that was a really, really good ad by Vegas, is what I would say.
Something I'm curious about with this team too. I went to UMass with Cale his freshman year for a semester, so I've known him a little bit since college. I saw him at All-Star Weekend, and I was kind of asking him just about the room. And when when Colorado was in New York, I got to talk to him and Devon Toews a little bit in the locker room. And I've been telling everyone since, when you're around the Avalanche, and you hear the word culture, I don't know if there's any other team in the NHL that is on the same page as much as they are away from the rink. But you're a guy who, you're not shy to talk about drinking on the plane, having a beer, having a glass of wine when you were playing. I feel like this team doesn't do that. And you hear rumors about Nate being very strict with off-ice diets and stuff. Can you talk about what this group's camaraderie is like off the rink? I mean, you're around it more than anyone probably, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you look at it, it's a solid group, and I mean, I think that starts with Joe Sakic, and he knows what it's like to not only be on championship teams, but now he's built a championship team, right? And so it starts with Gabe Landeskog, although he's not playing, like Gabe sets the tone. Whatever, Nate can do whatever he wants, but Gabe's like the dad. He's been the captain since he was 19 years old. He's the guy, right? And so if Nate ever got out of line, Gabe could grab him and be like, hey, this is how it is. And now Nate has rolled with that, and Nate just wants to win. And it's impressive to see. Like, I've played golf with him, and like, it's a $20 bet, and he like wants to just jam it down your throat. Like, right. Like he wants to win, and he is so competitive. And now you see like now that they've won, and he's felt the reward of all that commitment and that sacrifice. And I think that trickles down. And right, like now guys say, okay, well, Nate does this, like why shouldn't I do this? And Bedsy says it, like Colorado's the slowest team on the road getting out of the locker room, but it's because Nate and the guys have a recovery routine that they do, and they're not going to like the staff is not going to argue that because they have that success. And so when I look at it, it's Gabe Landeskog, it's Nathan MacKinnon, but now you bring in a guy like Cale Makar, and Nathan McKinnon's best friend is Tyson Barrie. And Cale Makar coming in, Tyson Barrie got moved. Like, there's a reason why Nate knows, like, Tice, I love Tice, great guy, great player.
Agreed.
But Cale Makar coming in necessitated Tyson Barrie getting moved. And like, I don't think Nate was like loved that at first, but then when you talk to him, like Cale Makar on the back end and Nathan MacKinnon up front, I mean, there's not many teams that are ever going to compete with that. So
there isn't one.
He wants to win, and he understands what it takes to win. And that's like, to me, that just it permeates throughout the entire team, that culture, that drive to win, and everybody buys in.
I'm pretty sure Nate even said, like, on the ice after they won the cup in an interview, like, what's the difference with this year's group? Like, how'd you get over the hump? It was like, go get a Cale
Makar. Yeah, exactly. Get a Cale Makar. I mean, that like, and that year that Cale had, I mean, he's kind of dealt with some minor stuff that's been nagging, I think, this year. But I mean, like the pace that he was on to start this year, even Nate's playing freakishly well. Every year you're like, oh, I can't believe he's playing this well. And this year, like he's blown every other year out of the water. Like to me, he's the Hart Trophy favorite. Now, mind you, I don't know that he'll win it, but the way that he's played, and just what the Avs of, no Landeskog, you lose Nichushkin for extended period of time. You basically don't really have a second line center when they Johansson came in, but then they moved him basically to the fourth line. So what Nate's doing is I think head and shoulders above anybody else.
Well, I'll just let everybody know, before Cale Makar broke all the Avalanche records, there was a guy by the name of John-Michael Liles who pretty much was at the top of the charts as a defenseman in all of those things. And I know you never like to admit this, but I've never played better hockey in my life. And honestly, the only reason I think that I was able to have such a good preseason and get the first couple opportunities in the NHL is because I got lucky and they put me with you, and you were easy to play with. Like, it's just get him the puck and just like make sure you just watch him do his thing and be open, and you'll be okay. So
I appreciate that. I don't know if it was that easy, but
it was like, honestly, I was like, oh, this isn't that hard.
Side, so. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Well, so look, I don't want to keep you too long. The last thing I want to talk about, I mean, I think the Trennan and the Duhaime moves are also underrated. Like, they don't need to improve their top. They improve the shit out of their bottom. But from an improvement standpoint, the last thing I wanted to talk to you about was Michigan State. We can't not at least touch on the Sparties. Like, so good to have them back on the national stage in the top 5-10 all season. They've got big time goaltender. They've got a kid who's going to be a top 5 pick in the draft. They've got some new facilities. There's life in that program. And I think it's great for college hockey. How much have you gotten involved or what have you kind of done or been a part of? Because I just got to assume they've done a better job of like re-engaging their alumni base with the success that they're having.
Well, they definitely have. First and foremost, I think our alumni are engaged. I'm on a big group chat with a ton of Michigan State hockey guys, and it's fun to be on that. Now that they're winning Big Ten champs, I think they're ranked 3rd in the country right now. Adam Nightingale has done an amazing job. I played with Adam. He was a transfer from Lake State when I was at Michigan State. So he practiced only my year with him. And then his younger brother, Jared, was on the team as well. And so Nighty is an unbelievable person, first and foremost, an unbelievable coach. And then he's got some really, really good assistant coaches, recruiters. Brad Fast, who was my D partner for 4 years, is one of their assistant coaches as well. And so not only do you have the new facilities, but you've got this buy-in, I think, from the alumni and from the school that this is the guy. And he, I don't think a requirement when they were doing the coaching search was that he had to be a Michigan State guy, but the fact that Knights was just down the road in Ann Arbor coaching the U.S. program, he's coached at Shattuck, he's coached in the NHL with Detroit, he's coached the U.S. program. Like, his resume is extensive. And now you're seeing that buy-in from the recruits that, yeah, I want to play for this guy because he coaches to today's game, which is a big one. Players, it used to be it was probably going to be 4 years. When I was in college, it was probably going to be 4 years, maybe 3. Now it's like, okay, if you're good and you're playing well, and it's 1 or 2 usually. And so that's a part of it. You have to factor that in, and you can't just say we want 4-year guys, because that's not the reality of college hockey. And Adam Nightingale knows it, and his staff knows it. You have to be able to replenish that pipeline. And I think he's done a fantastic job. I try and watch their games every weekend if I can. I went down to Colorado Springs and watched them play Air Force early on in the year. And young team that, Trey Augustine, the goaltender, true freshman goaltender. Not very often do you have true freshmen come in and play the way that he's played. Even Ryan Miller had a year at junior after high school and came in and played. He was unbelievable. That's really like the last kind of goaltender at Michigan State that you compare him to. And true freshmen don't always have success. It just doesn't translate a lot of times. But he's stepped his game up huge, and he's been a big part of it. It's awesome to watch. I haven't been able to get back to Michigan State in the last few years to see the new facilities, but I'm hoping to next year. It's something that's on my list, and it's just so cool to see, because BU, BC, like Michigan State, Minnesota, like all these teams, you always want them up there because I think it just helps college hockey.
100%.
It makes a difference, right? And so now that Michigan State has kind of made those steps, last year was a big stepping stone, and this year, now it's like, okay, you're proving it, right? And now you've got these buy-ins from the recruits. They're like, okay, we see where this is going, and we see the facilities now that are there to kind of match the coaching and the program, and that, I think you've got a great combination. But it all goes back to Adam Nightingale to me. To me, it's Adam Nightingale and what he brings and what his staff brings on a daily basis.
I was doing some research before interviewing you, and I was looking up your college stats and college highlights and whatnot. And the first thing that came up, I don't know if you can guess it, Mike Camilleri.
Oh, yeah. I
didn't want to bring it up, but
did he score on that? I hope he didn't. I think
he scored. It was nasty.
It was. We had some great battles. And Mike Komisarek, who played at Michigan, is a good friend of mine, and I still, we chirp each other just relentlessly. And I think our record at Michigan State, Cammy left, and they lost some guys, but my record at Michigan State for 4 years was pretty good against Michigan. So I always give that to Komisarek, and he's like, yeah, but I was only there for one of those, so it doesn't matter. And it's that constant just chirping. Yeah. But I've seen that highlight. I've had some nightmares about that highlight, but
I just wanted to bring it back up one more time for you.
I got
perfect.
Shaddy and I got caught on one against JVR. His first time we ever played against UNH. He pulled it through his legs on a 1-on-2, goes wide around Shaddy, and I'm just standing there watching it, and then he tucks like. That's our moment.
That must be a different JVR that I'm familiar with, because I don't think I've ever seen wide speed from JVR.
Yeah, this is
I'm going to the front of the net, and you just get me the puck. It was funny when Boston was here. I was working the game in Denver, and Shaddy and JVR came up to set after the game, and I got to talk to both of those guys, and both of them JVR hitting 1,000 games. That's awesome. I had such a good time with him in Toronto. He lived in the same building as me. My wife used to cook him food and go put it in his freezer for him, like when we were on road trips, so that he would have stuff to eat when he came back. Like it's so funny thinking about those, like years past and the connections you have with all these guys. And I texted JVR for his 1,000th game. I said, I can't believe those hips are still moving around.
Couple $100,000 a year he spends on those hips.
Goodness, man, it's unbelievable. He says they're buttery smooth, but I can only imagine the noises coming from those things.
Because he's got someone flying in every city to work on those hips. There is not a player in the NHL that spends more on hip and groin treatments than Reimer does.
Absolutely.
You mentioned, I know we're kind of getting close on time here, but I wasn't sure if I was going to bring this up or not, but you did mention Boston, and I know Charlie McAvoy pretty well.
Yeah.
He's a guy I feel like who doesn't get enough league-wide recognition. To me, I think he's one of the best, if not, outside of Cale Makar, best defenseman in the NHL. But his story, similar to a Cale Makar who steps into the playoffs after a college season, you were on his team when he played his first game paired with Zdeno Chara in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what was that like for you and him? Like a young guy coming in, you were a veteran guy. Like that's got to be a pretty good story too, no?
Well, it was an unbelievable story. And thinking back to those playoffs, that was my last year in the league. And we had like 4 defensemen go down in the last month of the season. And they were not all like, they were all like long-term. Like I think Torrey was like MCL, like 6 weeks. Quater went down with a neck injury. I think Millsy was in and out. Like it was crazy how many injuries we had. So I don't know, like, I know they were kicking around signing Charlie. Now, mind you, I have no idea, right? Like this is all management stuff, but I don't know that they were going to sign him and bring him into the playoffs. But all of a sudden it was like, well, we kind of got to do this. And he stepped right in and like, he was like, I always say Cale Makar was 3 steps ahead in college. And when he made it to the NHL, he was still a step and a half ahead. And like just reading the game, seeing the game. And Charlie, I would say, was right there. Like he was arguably a step ahead in those playoffs. And I mean, it was, hard fought series against Ottawa and they were a real good team. But he's such a good kid. And I agree with you. Like he's a tremendous player. When you look at him, like he's such a good two-way player and maybe like the points are where Cale Makar is or Victor Hedman or some of these other guys. And I think that's why maybe he doesn't get the recognition as much as those guys. But he's such a tremendous dominant player. Like when you look at, the physicality, the way that he defends, the way that he influences the game, both ends of the rink, I would say he's easily, top 3 or 4 defensemen in the NHL. And he's a great kid too. Like Brandon Carlo, another one of my favorites. Like I love that kid. He's a Colorado kid. And same thing, Colby, I had him. He was paired with me in training camp that first year. And Don Sweeney was like, hey, you're going to sit next to him on the plane. You're going to sit next to him on the bus, sit next to him on the bench. We're going to play every shift. You guys are going to play together. And I just want you to talk to him. And I was like, all right, sounds good. So I just talked to him.
Number 25. You got a thing for those 25s.
And then first game of the year, they put him with Chara, and I never played another shift.
But let me in 16 was that wasn't Claude's last year, right? Butchie was already the coach. Oh, was Claude's last year?
So we missed the playoffs the year before. I was a free agent. Boston re-signed me right before the free agency started, and Claude was the coach, and we were just on like this skid in January or February. And I remember we were on the mom's trip. We lost like 5-0 in Pittsburgh, and it was a whole kind of thing, like players only meeting, leadership meeting. And then I think a couple weeks later, Claude got fired. And I liked Claude a lot. Like I got along with him.
So did I, yeah.
And they brought in Butchie. And dude, we went on a run though, because we were out of the playoffs, and we went on a run to get in the playoffs that year. And I forget the numbers, but that was Claude's last year. So it was like maybe a month before, I think a month or a month and a half before the playoffs started is when Butchie came in and took us on this run. And we ended up getting into the playoffs, which for me, like I re-signed in Boston. I had a couple other spots that I was looking, and I re-signed in Boston. One, because I loved being on the Bruins. I love that group. My family and I love the city. The organization treated us, unbelievably. And we re-signed, but I was like, I want another shot at the playoffs. We missed the playoffs. We lost the last game of the year against Ottawa the year before. Tukes got sick the day of the game, and it not that
Who
did
played
it,
Khudobin?
no, Monster, Jonas Gustafsson. He
Oh,
played,
okay.
and he didn't play badly, but it was like one of those things where we were coming in, we win the game, we're in the playoffs, and we missed the playoffs by a point. And I was like, I just felt like I had unfinished business and re-signed in Boston, and we went on that run to make the playoffs, which for me was, like I wanted another shot at it.
Yeah. Well, it was I loved watching you play in Boston. That was great to see for me. That was fun.
Nice.
and following your whole career. But thanks for doing this. I know it's early out in Colorado. There was a lot of questions in the chat. Sorry we didn't get to them all.
I got one more thing though, Colby, if I can.
All right, keep him here for 3 hours, Johnny.
Well,
why don't you?
I've heard Johnny talk about these like men's leagues games out like in your area. I'm going to Jackson Hole on Thursday to play in 2 games this weekend, and I have no idea what the fuck to expect. So are
you playing against the Moose?
I think so.
Yeah. So there's a local team here in Vail. They're called the Vail Yeti. They play against the Moose, but it's a lot of like there's kid that played at Culver after me, Don Panetta. He played at Ferris State. They got a lot of D3 guys.
It's like legit hockey, guys. Right?
Well, yeah, it's legit hockey. They keep trying to get me to suit up, and I'm like, dude, there's hitting. That's never, like no chance.
Oh,
right?
wow.
Yeah, Colby, it's like
legit.
Yeah, there's like a morning skate.
That's
no,
Johnny only does the alumni events. He's only
no shoulder pads. If I gotta get
smiles.
shoulder pads out, that's all I'm out. No shoulder pads. Yeah, it's good hockey. It's good hockey, and it's physical. Jackson is like the whole town supports him. It's super cool, and that's kind of how it is in Vail too. Is the whole town on Friday and Saturday nights goes and watches these games, and it's a really cool kind of atmosphere. It's great for everybody in town. That's like the local workers that on a Friday and Saturday night, it's like that, or you go belly up, right? And so go to the hockey game. It's the cheapest beer in town, and people have a blast.
Yeah, I'm excited. I just the more I heard about it, I was like, oh my God, like I'm not in shape like at all.
The atmosphere is fun. You'll love it. Well, the altitude kills people too, right? Yeah. Like that's the tough part is the altitude.
You don't back check anyway, Laz, so you'll be fine.
Won't be able to breathe.
All right, Jonny Liles, we appreciate it. I'm sure you got to get the kids to school now. You're full-time dad. You got to sell some real estate in Vail,
something like that.
If anybody that watches our show needs to buy a piece of real estate in Vail, reach out to me. I'll connect you with this guy right here because nobody sells more real estate in Vail than Jonny Liles. Thanks for doing this, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good seeing you.